Hey, I'm Todd Smith, CEO of Symphony Workforce and Discover Your Genius. I'm here with Micah here at Case New Holland in Grand Island, Nebraska. Micah, this is a treat for me to sit on with you. I've heard tremendous things about you. Want to hear your story, where you're from, kind of why this Discover Your Genius thing makes sense to you. But let's start kind of where you're from and kind of how you got here.
Yeah, so I'm from a small town of Eagle, Nebraska. It's between Lincoln and Omaha. My folks there just had an acreage, but I was homeschooled all throughout. Not undergrad, but
Through high school?
Through high school.
Yeah.
Homeschool all the way to high school. And so my family, both my dad's and my mom's family farm.
Okay.
So in my spring and summer during planting and harvest season, I would take school off and I would go farm. So I would head up to Grandpa and Grandma's, which is just north of Grand Island up in the Albion area. And up there, we got to work on equipment, got to drive it, plant it, run the combine and all that in the fall, run grain cart and such. So I was interested early on, in the farming side of stuff, and very much hands-on. Grandpa taught me how to fix engines, well units need working on. So I was learning how to fix stuff from, big in 12 years and on. I was learning how to fix equipment.
That's awesome.
Then my senior year of high school, I went to East High in Lincoln and took shop classes. And I took a CAD design class, engine rebuilding class, and a woodworking class. Okay. And between those three, you can kind of, from what I do now, being a design engineer for combines, I'm on CAD all the time. I don't work with the engine part of the combine, but I work with the other physical parts of the combine. And then the woodworking was the real life application of measuring stuff out and making it fit. So a lot of that, learned a lot that year in high school. And then I had known the head of the mechanical engineering department there at UNL.
Okay.
And because of how I did in high school, I scored well enough on the ACT to get a Regent scholarship. So I was going to UNL.
Okay.
No matter what.
Yeah.
You got a Husker and it's not expensive, you just as well do it.
Absolutely.
So knew the head of the mechanical engineering department, went and visited. He told me about some of the student groups that are there, and he pushed very heavily to get involved in one or more.
Okay.
And so I started out as a mechanical engineer there at UNL, and I joined my first semester. I joined the Formula One team, which builds and designs a quarter-size Formula One race car.
Yes.
The dune buggy team, which builds and designs a quarter-scale dune buggy or half-size dune buggy, and the quarter-scale tractor team.
Got it.
And they build a quarter-size pulling tractor. And so I did a lot more with the tractor team because a lot more like-minded individuals over there. Most of them had an ag background.
Right.
I had a fairly decent ag background. And so through them, the advisor for the group is also the head of the UNL Tractor Test Lab, Roger Hoy.
Okay.
And so being involved with the group, I got to know him, and he said, you should come work for me at the Tractor Test Lab. So sophomore year, I went and worked for him at the Tractor Test Lab, and about halfway through sophomore year, I decided I want to work on ag equipment. I don't really want to work on the rest, so I switched my major from mechanical engineering to ag engineering. Okay. Which, from a large perspective, they're basically the same. One just focuses on ag equipment.
Got it.
We take a lot of the same classes, a lot of that stuff. And so, throughout this whole time frame, I had gone to the job fair there at UNL and met up with the recruiters for Deere and Case.
Okay.
And my freshman year, they both said, well, we don't really take freshmen, so come back next year and we'll talk again. And I was offered a internship with the mid-range combine group doing field tests for mid-range combines.
Got it.
So my sophomore year, I took a semester off school and I did a co-op, so that was 9 months working on the combine. And I went and ran a combine, Kansas, Idaho, and Iowa. So took a combine, ran all around the U.S. testing it.
Got it.
So at that point, I decided, well, I want to be a test engineer. This is what I'm going to do.
That's good, right?
This is what I'm going to do. So I came back with CNH the next year up in Pennsylvania testing balers.
Okay.
So I went to upstate New York and I ran a baler all summer.
That works.
At this point, it was, I really want to be back in Nebraska. That's where that's my family from. So I went and tried out a different company, worked for them. Ended up coming back here to Grand Island as a design engineer, working on combines.
So how old are you now?
26.
26. So you have right? Yeah, think about it for a second. Like, let me do the math, right?
26.
What's crazy about your story is your story is exactly what we at Discovery Genius are trying to get to happen for as many kids as possible, young people as possible, right? It feels like from the time, and you'd mentioned work with your grandfather, from the time you were 12 that you were welding, building, fixing, trying.
Yes, for sure.
And you continue to do that through harvest and planting season, through high school. Then you went and said, hey, I'm going to try this again, and you went through shop and woodworking and design right over at East High, and then you went through a series of internships to confirm, and every one, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you got closer and closer to the exact thing you wanted to do in the exact place you wanted to do it.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah, so that's what all of growing up was about. I mean, ideally I'd be farming. It's not always possible. So, so this is the next best thing, because in my current role I still get to go out to customers and visit with customers. I still get to operate the machine, and so you just can't beat it, I guess.
When you think back or you think back to how you got here at 26 and when you first heard about our competitions and what we were going to give young people the opportunity to do, what about it made you go, hey, this fits, this works for the new world, for the technology, for how do you get opportunity to kids? What clicked for you?
The forcing people to think in an engineering way. I mean, biggest difference between, I'd say, your average kid and the way I grew up is I grew up with that, I'll call it mechanical background, figuring out, well, what can I do to make this better, or what's wrong with it and how do I fix it, but at the same time make it better.
Right.
And so the questions are kind of gauged towards turning on that thought process.
Right. We like to call it, the term for it, right, with design thinking, right? So how do you figure out how to fail forward in a way that makes it better for, right? I'm always amazed, and I think as a 48-year-old guy, right, with the people who are older than me and that run around America, I think we undervalue the dynamic nature of your generation, right? That your generation has that, when you can find the mix between honoring the things that your grandfather taught you, right, with the latest technology that's out there and how rapidly technology changes, that's the honey hole, right? That generation has the honey hole, as well as, I will say it, I'm blue in the face, your generation actually has the most capacity for empathy, for understanding how to be empathetic, that things that you do should help the greater good, right?
And with engineering, that's one of the things throughout college, especially towards the end, they start to preach is we're technically professionals, and one of the biggest things, you have to take an ethics class,
Mm.
like focused solely on ethics and ethical engineering.
Really?
And that's exactly what it's focused on, is what you do here has societal consequences, etc. And so you always have to be thinking about, as you're doing something, the ethics. And depending on your role, it's, your effect may be, narrowed a little bit.
Right.
But everything you do has some downwind consequences, whether it's a part and you're going to make the plant build it, and then your customers are going to be using it.
Right.
You got to think about all that, and so we're trying.
Right.
Right. That is integrated to a certain
Right.
extent. Just the people that come with that stuff and that background knowledge, etc., ahead of time helps a lot.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, you can always tell in college, especially at the college level or even the interview level, you can always tell the kids that it clicks and they have that mentality and the practical application of it, and
Right.
the kids that don't.
Right.
And so everything you can do to get and kickstart that practical knowledge is essential.
It's amazing the combination of all the practical skills and the application ends with, hey, here's this ethical class that says, hey, by the way, what you do has downwind consequences. That's crazy, right?
That's how it goes, though.
So tell me, obviously without saying the other names of the companies that will not go name, right? How did we end up, and why do we see this long future with Case? What is it about Case that makes it that way?
I'll be honest, the biggest thing is location.
Okay.
So my wife is from here,
Okay.
Grand Island, so working in Grand Island is, I'm close to family.
Got it.
And, I have a passion for combines. I really like combines, so when I get combines in family, you can't beat that.
That's awesome. Hey, I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.